Again to the
Hello?
people. Yes, we live, Mr. Prosper. All right. Very good. All right, Mr. Prosper, we are live.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we are. We are truly live. Okay, guys. This is our second day,
Yeah, yeah.
and then this is me, Mr. Prosper. And then yesterday, while we were trying to do the live, and for some reason, we sat here for almost 1 hour. Right?
Hour. Yeah, yeah.
And we were so engaged, talking to introduce how we are going to do the math class in Creole and English. And then, for some reason, when we done talking and then we put the camera in and everything, so when we went to the live feed, and we found that there was no sound. And then inadvertently speaking, I pressed, without knowing, the audio button and the YouTube live platform, and I didn't notice that. So we sat for almost 1 hour talking, but luckily we have our microphone and then we register it. So if you guys want to see what we were talking about yesterday, you could go to our to the channel, all right, and then you can check. You can check really what's going on and then see the conversation. We are going to upload the entire conversation because I'm working on it. I'm going to upload it. But I know this time is supposed to be good.
Yeah, you guys should.
I'm going to double check. So when Prosper is there by himself teaching, then I'm going to go and check the YouTube feed to see if everything works. Anyway, guys, that was a little housekeeping here.
Yeah.
Welcome to our live session here where we are going to do the live use. And today, Prosper, take the floor.
Yeah.
Against?
So, right, as Mr. Pond said, yesterday, you would have heard in our videos that we want to start with pre-algebra. And again, the whole idea of these videos was trying to get a foundation of math that would help Haitian students specifically to better, I guess, do well in school and grasp whatever their English teachers are teaching them. Okay. So yesterday we said that we would start the first math videos with the types of numbers there, because math is about numbers, right? And algebra specifically is about the unknowns, which are variables. But first we need to understand what numbers are, right? So, right, as most of you when you were little kids and you were told to learn how to approach numbers, right, Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Usually they tell you what? That you should, say when you're a little kid, how did you start learning numbers?
They just put little bars, one,
One,
plus one,
yeah,
two,
two,
three,
three.
and then make us count.
yeah,
Yeah, and they make me remember things like 1 up to 10, and then after that they give me from 10 to 20,
Okay.
from 20 up to 100,
Mhm.
and then they give me papers, and then I'm talking about way back when I was in the
I know.
And then I see that's the same process that we do.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone all over the world, this is how they approach numbers. But Mr. Paul just said it. We would count these, right, Mr.
Yes.
Paul? These are called the counting.
The counting numbers.
And then I guess a more formal way to say that is the natural numbers. Right? This just means, right, like, I guess throughout the world, in history, when human beings are trying to find a way to talk about the many things they see around, they naturally came up with this way of talking about, I see one thing, I see two things, I see three things, I see four things, I see five things, right? So you start with the natural numbers, the counting numbers, right? And that's the beginning of numbers. But then, in ancient India, many people don't know this, but in ancient India, they came up with a very important number. They come up with the number 0. Right? Do you guys write it like this in Haiti? Like this?
Yeah, zero,
Zero.
but I don't know. I never knew that they were putting this like that.
Yeah, I see some people write it this way. I write it like this way, but just to let you guys know, it's 0.
Okay.
This is an extremely important number. It's actually my favorite number. with zero, now you can come up with like, right? You can have debt, and the reason why you need debt is now you can have finance. Also, all like us when we're talking about computers and the internet, the computers and computer technology works with, right? Works with zeros and one. So like zero is extremely important. But because we add zero in here, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
We now have something called the whole numbers. Right?
Whole numbers, yeah.
So first we had the counting numbers. If you want, I'll put like maybe like a
chart.
Chart, right? I
Okay,
should do a
yeah,
chart
yeah.
like that. Like is there space over here?
Yeah, I think there's space, yeah.
So like,
You're going to do a chart, yeah. Mm-hmm.
in here we have natural, right? Numbers. And then we just added to that zero, and then it became the whole numbers. Everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why zero is so special, because in ancient India they had a way, like, can you imagine thinking of naming, making a quantity of nothing? Because that, right? It's like kind of contradictory. How do you have a quantity of nothing?
What do you mean? It's
Exactly.
a bunch of nothing.
Exactly.
So that means a bunch of zeros.
But no, but not even just a bunch of zeros, but like they were smart enough to be like, the only way to deal with a bunch of nothing, we have to give it some symbol, we have to give it something.
Okay.
Yeah, and that thing is zero.
Okay.
Other people didn't really come up to that point, and over time, as people were trading throughout Asia, Africa, and Europe, then people realized this is very helpful to have zero, because if you have zero, now I can have on the other side of zero is what?
That's the negative side.
Yeah, and then now with negative numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're into integers. Integers.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is very important, right? Now we have negative numbers, and that's even more important for like debt, right? And finance. You need negative numbers.
Because if you don't have this, there's no way you can have that.
Correct.
Because debt, it is something that you owe.
Oh.
It is a minus from your pocket.
Correct.
So in order for this to be actually valid, there has to be the opposite side of positive.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly. And then the way to look at integers, right? I just tell people just look at it as like the temperature. We always now with integers, without integers we wouldn't be able to say, oh, it's negative 10 degrees Celsius, or it's negative 5 degrees Celsius. But for some kids, right, they're like, what do you mean by integers? Just think of all the numbers you use, right, when you're talking about the temperature, right? And I'm talking about on your phone, you're looking like looking at the news. It's always this kind of numbers, right? So these are negative and positive whole numbers. That's what integers are, right? Negative and positive whole numbers, right? And the whole numbers were just what? Zero and all the positive numbers. And what were the natural numbers? Well, that was just the counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so forth. So now we have the integers. We have negative numbers, right? And positive numbers. And zero. And whole numbers. Some people start pushing like the way we think about numbers by being like, well, wait a minute. Are there numbers between here? Are there numbers between 1 and 2? Are there numbers between 2 and 3?
Of course.
And of course they are.
This is where fractions come.
And like Mr. Pond said, that's where the fraction comes. And then that's how you get rational numbers. This is very important. Rational numbers. Rational numbers. Even now, Mr. Paul and I, we like dealing with the stock market and buying shares of companies. It's literally now with the technology that we have, right? With the brokerages, we can now have percentages. We can have fractions of shares. So it's even more accessible for people, right, to get involved in the stock market. Before though, you would have to go to an actual broker who probably has to only do shares in whole number, right? Whole number amounts, right? So rational is very important too, because in high school, at least in New York City, it's something that you're always tested for in high school exams. If you understand what a rational number is and what is an irrational. Okay? So, gave you some history, right, on numbers. Hopefully that makes some sense, right? We went from the natural numbers, who are counting numbers, to whole numbers with zero. And now that we had zeros, we got to integers, which are negative and positive whole numbers. Now we're up to rational numbers. The way to remember what rational numbers are is
Ratio.
ratio. Okay? And rational in math is very different than what rational is in English. And when we think of someone thinking rationally, it means logically, right? Logically. But in math, it just means a number can be a fraction. That's all. A number can be a fraction. And when we say a fraction, we mean a ratio. And other words you might that are similar to this that refer to numbers, just like more information. Cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers, right? We basically talked about cardinal numbers earlier because this is just count, right? You're just counting things, right? Numbers, right? And ordinal will be like first, second, third, right? So this is kind of similar. There's one thing, there's two things, there's three things. But no, this is ordinal, as in the order. I only bring up these words so that you can realize there's some logic, right? We talked about in the previous video. Mm-hmm. We talked about the logic of the language itself when we use it in math. Cardinals is like counting cards. One thing, two, three. Ordinal is about the order that you're doing something. Is it first, second? These are all ordinal numbers. And then now we're up to rational numbers. Okay? You can see the logic, right, behind the language. Rational. Can it be a fraction? Can you turn to a ratio? So what I like to ask people is 2. The number 2. Is that rational?
It could be.
It could be. How would I change that to a fraction?
If you put 2 over 1.
Yeah, he's right. Exactly. 2 is 2 over 1. He's right. So we know because I can write it as a fraction, it has to be what? A rational number, right? Basically a ratio number, a rational number, right? Now, what about 2 over 3? Right? Is that rational? Well, yeah. Because it's already a fraction. Rational, it is a fraction. Or what about 0.48? Right? 0.48. Is that? Yeah. Rational. Because I could write it as what? 48 over
100.
100. So hopefully that makes it, that's it. This is very, I can tell from my experience as a high school teacher, this is a concept that can be elusive for some kids, where they don't understand that all it's asking you is, if you put numbers together, can you write it as a fraction or not? That's all. So then, I'll give you, make it more complicated, I guess, or push it further, so you'll see what will probably pop up on a high school exam. They'll ask you something like this. It's okay if you've never seen this before, but it just means what is the square root of 4? Okay? Again, we're doing pre-algebra, and so don't worry if this is the first time seeing this, is fine. This just means, is there a number times itself that gives you 4, right? And what's the square root of 4, Paulin, again? It's
2.
2, right? Meaning 2 times 2 gives you 4. And so I'm asking, is square root of 4 rational? Well, if it equals 2, and 2 is the same thing as what? Then we know square root of 4 is rational. Right? And the reason why I bring in the square root is because this is how we get to the next type of number.
The opposite of
The
rational.
opposite of rational. Square root of 3. Can I do square root of 3? Irrational. There is, right? You said 2 times 2 equals 4, right? 2 times 2 equals 4. But there is no number times itself that gives you 3. So now we've gotten to the next level, which is irrational numbers. And I can't put even irrational in here. I had to put it outside of it.
the box.
Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a number that there isn't a square root of 3. If you put this in a calculator, you'll get 1 point, da, 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 da. You'll get a whole bunch of numbers. But that's why it's irrational. You won't get something that can be a what?
Fixed.
A fraction,
yeah.
right? Remember, that's all it's about. So whatever you get in the calculator, you'll see it just keeps going, but it won't become a fraction. That's why we know it's
Irrational.
yeah. So that's the best way to think about a rational number. Okay? Can it be written as a fraction? Yes, then it's rational. Can it not? Irrational. Right? And then the last, as in how do we talk about all these numbers that we just discussed? We discussed natural numbers or counting numbers. And then we talked about whole numbers. Then we talked about integers. Then we talked about rational numbers. And then the opposite of that, irrational, which is outside of rational. Well, all of these together are called real numbers. These are all called real numbers. And you might be thinking like, these are real. We use these numbers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In math, as you get to higher levels, we have something called imaginary numbers. And that's like algebra 2. Again, we're not there yet, this is only pre-algebra. So right now, we have to just focus on the numbers that you'll be dealing with in pre-algebra and algebra 1 are real numbers. And the only real numbers there are that we're dealing with right now for this subject, natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers.
Very good. Okay, so far so good. All right, now guys, as I said, this class going to be taught in both languages, Creole and English. Mr. Prosper, you are a master teacher. I have learned from you here. Thank God, not even thank God, I am a translator. Because I could not even, I remember this, cardinal and cardinal, way back when I was an AD.
Yeah.
Okay guys, so on Creole, Mr. Prosper, you're going to learn some Creole from me.
Okay.
Ok. Je ke m'a dit nou guys, c'est comme ça classe là. Et yon ne bagay ke m'te dit hier, n'a fait classe là en façon que pour élèves cap garder nous pour c'est pour élèves high school qui aux États-Unis. Et que Jean que Mr. Prosper expliquer ça, nous t'a supposé quand t'as une idée ça qu'a fait là. Mais je ne vais pas aller en détail Jean que Mr. Prosper fait là parce que moi just summarize quand on va un summary de ça que dit. Premièrement, on a parlé de numbers. Number system dans le sens c'est que j'ai encore capable de chaque là. Premier number que c'est ça qui est le natural number. Excusez-moi que je vais essayer d'expliquer ça en créole. C'est la première fois que je vais essayer d'enseigner en créole maths. Moi, j'ai toujours enseigné maths en anglais. So, parfois, je vais carrer de way et puis après, l'anglais a retourné sur moi. But, comme je dis, nous, bear with me. So, c'est ça que les natural number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, infinity. Now, après natural number, il y a un lot set of numbers que nous devons classifier qui viennent les whole number. Whole number, ça veut dire que whole, ça veut dire que tout ensemble. C'est ça qui fait tourner whole number, c'est 0. Ok? That 0 que vous put, then it been classifié comme whole number. Ça veut dire que là, que vous avez pour examen, et puis vous avez 2, vous avez 3, vous avez 4, vous avez 5, vous devez dire natural number. À la minute que vous mettez 0 à une set of data, it's going to be a whole number. Depuis 0 là-dedans, il n'est pas natural number encore. C'est natural number, but le fait que 0 là, if I get you what is the set of data, quand vous dites qui set data, ça y est, ou pas dire natural number, ou can you natural number, but you have to also include whole number. Otherwise, à cause de zéro là, ou pas dire whole number, ou doit perdre point. So far so good. Now, le fait que whole number a venu une autre bagaille que le fait que vient 0 pour zero it is the starting point, and now this is the positive side of the number system, and then the opposite side it is the negative. La toute bagaille est positive et négative. Pas jamais rien qui marche ou seul. There has to be equilibrium, equal, positive, negative. So, les mêmes genre. Même genre 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, on va faire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we just put negative in front of them because that's the negative side. And then, as Mr. Prosper was saying that there are what? Gain, non. Quand on a parlé de dette, dette, son bagage pour l'ordre de mon l'argent. Si pas de négatif, le système noir, on va cadrer mon l'argent. Si tout c'est positif lié, comment on cadrer mon comme si tout nombre c'est positif? Si je gagne $10 dans le poche, ça veut dire que c'est positif que lié. Ça veut dire que je ne vais pas cadrer. Mais c'est là que je vais comme et puis ma compte Mr. Prosper me dit Mr. Prosper, prêtez-moi $10. Mr. Prosper bon moi $10. Then, il vient dire positif dans le poche, mais il dit négatif pour Mr. Prosper, c'est retirer. Si vous avez $100, vous avez $100, vous avez $90. Il dit que minus 10, c'est ça qui nous donne le négatif. Il dit que le négatif réellement important. Même si j'ai positif infinity, il y a aussi négatif infinity tout. Ok? Ou pour le national debt aux États-Unis, il y a un trillion. Deux sont négatifs nombres. C'est négatif nombre lié pour nous-mêmes aux États-Unis. Et dit que trillion. Et dette la a monté. Tout le temps que dette la monté, la impact non négatif speaking. Elle dit que si vous avez besoin d'acheter concernant le bagage d'octapel parce que d'être là. Et peut-être ça, nous gagnons pour nous faire classe dans la finance pour montrer exactement comment pour nous régulariser financement de bagage. Parce que math is very important, number is important. So nous parlons de natural number, nous parlons de whole number. Le fait que nous mettons négatif, nous mettons positif, then c'est ça qui nous les integers. Integers à son nom, integer. Open? Guys, je ne vais pas traduire le langage pour nous parce que nous voulons dire en anglais pour nous comprendre. Parce que dans notre test là, pour nous s'appelle integers. Integers, c'est tout nombre qui est négatif, qui est positif, plus 0, c'est ça que l'integers. Okay? Those are integers.
And let them know it's not negative fractions or decimal, it's negative or
Yeah.
positive
Whole numbers, yeah. Integers, yeah. Les gains pour avec numbers simplement. Les pas gains pour avec fractions. Integers, Jean-Marc Michel Prosper dit, c'est numbers, infinitive numbers, 0 et puis plus positive numbers. Fractions pour qu'on ait integers.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, l'offre qui est number ça, ou fin qui est ça, what number, then, ou vient que ça qui est les rational numbers. And rational numbers go on work là dans l'équipe dit ratio. And ratio, dès que vous avez mots ratio, vous mettez ces fractions. Okay? Là, when you do what is the ratio of something, c'est fraction que l'on va dire quand même. So, rational numbers, c'est fraction que l'on. Et même là, quel number, et pour conclure, il est rationnel parce que d'un barré qui est invisible. Invisible là, c'est que 200, il quand vous savez, Jean Baptiste, c'est que là, c'est 2 over 1. Et 2 over 1 equals 2. Ça veut dire que peut-être ça que 2 a une rational number parce que si vous pouvez rentrer dans la forme fraction, vous pouvez convertir into a rational number pour faire tourner 2 over 1. C'est pour tout number qui est positif. Same thing as pour negative number is tout. Vous avez negative 2, negative over 1 like that. It could be. Over 1, yeah. Over 1. It could be that way, right?
That's negative 2.
That's negative 2. So, et tout qui comme ça. So guys, I'm telling you, même si on voit que c'est négatif, nous sommes capables de faire des choix, c'est même genre tout positif là qui est dans les choix comme ça. So, et même genre, comme on dit, c'est fraction.
Even tell them about the
Okay. Now, for the decimal number, no, I'm going to leave this here because I want them. Et c'est ma toute traduction qui dit, ça c'est ça que le decimal number. Within the rational number, guess ça que le decimal. The decimal number could also be a rational number. Because anytime you see this one here, 48 over 100. Simba ou 36, c'est 36 over 100. Alright? But, parfois, you can not over 100, you could buy it between one number too. Let's say if I give you 0 point whatever, 5. It could be 5 over 10. Okay? It could be 5 over 10, and then it is the same fractional as that.
Yeah.
And then, they toujours going to teach classmates when it comes to decimal. I always said that any positive number, is also un decimal number. Parce que 6, même quand on va comme ça, it is also a decimal number. Calcul comme ça, it is the same thing.
Yeah.
Ça, c'est important pour convertir tout le nombre là-dedans à ce decimal number, spécifiquement les que on fait division, l'on fait fraction, l'on fait des bagages pour capable convertir. Bon, je vais enseigner ça pour nous là parce que je vais expliquer pour aller devant, because nous avons fait ça qui est the parcours of all the numbers. Then après integers, nous venons gagner rational number que nous faisons là. Après rational number, nous venons gagner opposite of rational, c'est irrational. Ok? The opposite of rational, tout ça pas rational, c'est irrational que nous. Then, c'est peut-être raison ça, guys. Where square root là, square root of 4. This one is okay because square root of 4 is 2. Les nombres qu'on multiplie par les mêmes, c'est l'équipe pour square root là, ouais. 2 times 2 equals 4, donc 2 c'est square root of 4. Et 2 equals 2 over 1, c'est ça que ça peut faire une rationnel. But square root of 3, par exemple, aucun nombre qu'on peut multiplier par les mêmes pour le capable de 3. Il est impossible. C'est pour cette raison ça que square root of 3 est irrationnel. Il y a plus de nombres que nous parlons. Quand vous avez pi, ok? Il y a des pi qui 3 point whatever, those are irrational numbers parce que là, bon paquet de bonnes numbers, allez, ok? Bon paquet de bonnes numbers pour qu'on va irrationnel.
Right? I just put the square root of 3. I'll just let you know.
Okay, good?
Yeah, it's 1.73205080757. This means it keeps going on forever.
Forever.
So there's no one number that I can't change this to a fraction.
Yes.
Because it just keeps going on forever.
And then eventually if we put square root of 5 too.
Yeah.
Square root of 7.
Yeah.
And those.
Excellent. Yeah.
Tout ça, yo, pas capable de bon nombre. Moi, j'aime bien m'expliquer nous les maths teach math. Moi, toujours dis nous, depuis que nous arrivons dans le square root, si vous pas capable de jouer un nombre qui just sans décimal là-dedans, tout est irrationnel. That's how I do it. Parce que je dis, je ne vais pas écraser tel coup. Et si on ne peut pas convertir, si je give you square root of 25, 5 times 5, that give me a number. But if you give me square root of 20 what? Of 26, I think.
Okay.
There's no way we can jouer nos nombres que we can multiplier par les mêmes qui font comme 26. Définitivement, ça va là de manière irrationnelle.
Yeah.
So c'est pour ça que pour guys, pour nous comprendre. Donc, on ne peut pas jouer nos nombres without any decimal behind it. It's most likely pas irrationnel. C'est peut-être raison ça veut dire que son nombre, même si vous avez 89, même si vous avez 80 as the result, then it's going to be irrational. But if it has decimal behind it, a bunch of repeating numbers, then it's going to be irrational. Okay? So, après nous finissons irrational là, guess what, guys? Irrational là, il parle dans le même cadre avec ça. Irrational là, pas pour compter. And then, l'on vient mettre tout ça together, then say let's have the real number. So, real number encompasses everything. That's what we call the real number. This is the basics for mathematics. Et dit que si on va faire mathématiques, il faut qu'on s'appelle les nombres. And therefore, l'on fait examen. Yo qu'on pose des questions ça yo. Yo qu'on pose des questions pas bien pour pas solver. Yo dans mon question, yo just dire comme ça que fort qui ça que lui. Classifier fort pour moi. Ou même si on connaît, ou pas dire que fort, then on connaît que fort c'est un natural number. All right? Ou gen doit dire que 4 son whole number. Gen doit dire 4 son integer. And then gen doit dire 4 son rational number.
Yeah.
And then, ou gen doit même dire 4 son real number.
Yeah.
The only thing on va dire que 4 yet, ou pas dire 4 son irrational number. Ok? So c'est un exemple ça que nous avons. Et puis, monsieur Prospecteur même mentionné ordinal and cardinal numbers. And cardinal numbers, c'est 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ça veut dire qu'on va contrôler les compositions 4 pour contrôler. And then ordinal, c'est là qu'on a parlé là. I am the first in my class. I am the second in my class. Ah, c'est là que vous a parlé en termes first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, okay, seventh, eighth. I am the 10th people of this group that has $10,000 in my pocket. So, c'est là que vous écrivez en termes de letters like that. C'est ça qui est ordinal. Ça veut dire que the sequence. But cardinal là, c'est leur contrôler 1, 2, 3, 4. So, ça, c'est en essence, guys, c'est pour ça que le système n'a marché. Now, nous connaissons que nous avons période region, right?
Yeah.
We are doing region now. So, we are going, nous allons prendre deux, trois exemples dans le region là, et puis pour nous try, pour nous solve, pour nous là, guys, and then pour nous comment que nous. Mais comme moi dis nous, ça c'est la première leçon que nous faisons ensemble, entre moi avec Mr. Prosper. This is a little bit dirty, we need to clean it up better. Oh, you're good. C'est la première leçon que nous faisons avec Mr. Prosper là, and then nous allons essayer de faire deux, trois problèmes. Mr. Prosper va faire deux, trois problèmes avec nous là, guys. So take over, Mr. Prosper.
All right. So, right, I suggested that after we discuss, right, all the real numbers are and what they are, we should do a typical regions problem, right? Again, this is a problem from a high school exam, right, that typically will be on there, right? They always test if you understand what rational is versus what irrational is, right? So, the question is asking, right, of these four choices, right, we have four choices. We have L plus M plus N plus P plus L, right? The question asks is which results in rational number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's a typical question, straight from the region. Typical question straight from the region, okay. All right.
And as Paulin was showing you, Mr. Paulin was showing you, the best way to approach a problem like this is not to just go ahead and place these numbers in place. Find out if these are rational or irrational.
It's true.
That would be the easiest thing to do first. So here, we already said the square root of 2. Can you do the square root of 2? No. Irrational. Right? Well, 3 is a rational number. That is true. But square root of 2, can I do that? No. Well, if I did 3 times the irrational number, it's still going to be irrational. But what about square root of 16? Can we do that? What number times itself gives you 16? 4. What about 9? Square root of 9. What number times itself gives you 9? 3. Well then obviously, of the choices, I should pick the ones that give me, that has what? N and P. Do that in? And that would be 1 point on the high school exam.
Okay. Very good.
Right?
Yes. Hey guys, on est capable de là, ça c'est question que vous posez, c'est typique question que vous avez joué dans le widget là. Et nous allons là, parce qu'on est dans le widget là, gagner question yo, ou just taper et vous jouer toute année yo. Okay? Until what years that the whole exam are there on the computer? I mean,
all the way to
what
1990s.
What?
Yeah, they have all the exams, yeah.
Until 1990. You know, when I used to teach, let them have a senior, they couldn't for plaisir to go and then no just apprete you. Just recently, like we are in 2025, then I will go probably 5 years prior.
Yeah.
Et puis qu'on y a chaque week-end or chaque semaine, et puis nous font region. Programme avec tout le monde, et puis nous concours. Nous drill. Et bien c'est le même genre. So, nous pas faire de trois region problème là parce que nous connaissons la region section. So, some question posée là, given these numbers here, qui est là qui résulte un rational number. Remember, c'est rational number. So, nous connaissons que square root of 2, c'est irrationnel. Parce que there's no way, par aucun nombre, j'aime te dire avant, pour qu'on multiplie pour bon square root of 2. Nous connaissons que ça, lui-même, 3, même bien avec tout, par aucun nombre que vous êtes capable de multiplier pour bon ça. So therefore, 2 ça est déjà irrationnel. So nous gagnons 2 ça est traité. 16, square root of 16 c'est 4. 4 multiplié par 4, bon 16. And then 9, 3 multiplié par 3, bon 9. So 2 ça est rationnel, so nous just garder. Ça nous cancel, ça gagne n là, but nous disons c'est which one? C'est n avec p, comme nous là, c'est ça que nous checker comme the right answer.
And you can tell them, like, say if you did the irrational plus and an irrational, would it turn into rational? No.
Yes, no way.
There's no way. What if you did an irrational plus irrational? It was still right. The m is still, because you're adding it doesn't mean it changes.
Irrational plus irrational, pas jamba ou rationnel. Et puis, bon, l'autre bagage que pour nous bien comprendre, guys. Avec tout ça que nous montrons là, il y a elimination, guys. Lorsqu'on apprend l'examen, il faut éliminer. So, c'est juste pour parler pour déjà connaître que ça, il va la donner pour tout balval, ça va la donner pour tout balval, et de ça, il va se faire pour balval, et vous connaissez que ça peut faire. Parce que most of the time, lorsqu'on prend l'examen, surtout lorsqu'on fait recheck, il y a 4 réponses. Les 4 réponses, il y a 2 qui ne pas gagner pour voir avec réponse là. Et puis l'autre décrété, gain the right answer, et puis gain qui close to the right answer. And then, sur le mathématique, on soit une petite base, and then we're capable easily déterminer qui est-ce qu'il est. All right, next question.
Yeah, another question. All right, so another one that's I can remember from my head is right. You throw. Yeah, this is a good one. You throw your clothes in the laundry, right? What type of number would you use for the number of clothes? Number of 30 clothes. Number of
30 clothes.
Yeah, 30 clothes. This is a good one. It obviously it's great phrase different on the regions, but this is basically the gist, and they give you 2 choices. They say integers. I've seen this question. Integers, whole numbers, rational numbers, or irrational numbers. Now, this is an actual regions question. I changed with from my memory what it says, but it more or less says this. Like, if you're throwing clothes into the laundry, what type of number would you use? If you're talking about I think it said the domain, but just the number of clothes inside it. And based off, hopefully, you were paying attention earlier when we were talking about explaining these real numbers. You should, like Mr. Paulin, I could get sort of from his Creole, that he said you should rule out 2 choices.
Yeah, 2 choices, yeah.
Well, one of the choices you could definitely rule out is what?
Rational numbers.
If I'm throwing laundry into it, am I throwing a number of clothes that could be irrational? No. There's no way. There's no way. And then another thing, hopefully, that people realize, I wouldn't use these type of numbers because they include negative numbers.
Yes.
So I would cross out
the integers.
Integers, right? Because this means negative
numbers.
Negative and positive numbers.
Yeah. But you're not throwing things.
Yeah, you can't throw negative clothes.
Yeah. Everything that's positive close.
So I know a lot of kids who got this question wrong. Okay? Maybe some of them thought integers because they were thinking, oh yeah, those are positive numbers. But no, we just discussed what makes an integer is that it includes negative and positive. We're only talking about dirty clothes in the laundry. You can't have negative clothes. So between these 2, which one do you think most students pick, Mr. Paulin? They pick this one. But why is this not the right answer? Because if I'm doing dirty clothes, can I have a fraction of clothes? Can I have fraction of clothes?
No, you can't. Wow. That is
This is a very right. It's a really good question.
And so far,
this is a Regents question, a high school question.
and so far there is no numbers involved.
Yeah, nothing involved, no numbers
And then
involved.
we call it is a math question.
This is a math
where
question.
no numbers, not
Yeah.
1 plus 1 or 2 plus
Correct.
2 involved here. It is just logic. And then beside logic, know your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because as I said too, when we teach, les n'a pas enseigné, nous voulons pour guys pour un vocabulaire très bien. C'est pour la raison ça que nous commençons à première leçon nous avec real numbers, rational, integers. Nous avons besoin que pour nous comprendre qui ça qu'on integers, qui ça qu'on rational number, qui ça qu'on irrational number. Parce que il y a des questions que vous allez poser nous qui pas gagner pour nous avec 1 plus 1 sur une mathématique ou in terms of your time numbers very well. Ça irrelevant. Ça qui connaît, est-ce qu'on est capable de faire logique là? Vous voyez close, right? You do your close. Ça veut dire que vous voyez close dans l'anglais. What type? On veut dire quel type de number qu'on va utiliser pour number close qui s'allume pour parler dans l'anglais. So you got integers, you got whole number, you got rational number, you got irrational number. Et Jean qui dit avant, il y a ça qui est le process of elimination. Nous commençons à éliminer. Nous connaissons que festival, on a parlé de rad, pas gain qui est rationnel là, parce que c'est rad et porté dans contrôler rad. C'est 1 grain, 2 grains, 3 grains rad. Pas gain irrational number là. So therefore, nous just consider irrational là. Then, nous allons dans integers, guys. Integers pas gain décimal rad pour ou près 5 rad. Pas gain bagay comme ça parce que son seul grain rad là. Ou grain rad son grain rad lié. 2 pieces of close, c'est 2 pieces of close. Pas gagner décimal là. So therefore, you just change
Well, not
it.
decimal, right? Because the
Yes.
integers is
Yes,
positive
negative numbers.
Yeah.
That's right. For the integers. Après
This
ça,
is for the
nous allons dans ça qui fraction tout.
yeah.
The fractions, pas gagner décimal là-dedans, pas gagner fraction dans classe là-dedans, c'est ça. Yeah, j'en te dis integers, ça pas gagner minus. J'en te dis avant l'integer. C'est réponse qui est possible. C'est whole number. That's it. That's the only
Yeah, that like you said,
Logic.
logically makes sense.
whole number. And matter of fact, if they were to put natural number, I will have gone for the natural
Yeah.
number and it's the whole number because there's no zero close. But since it is the most sensible
Compared to the
compared to the other obvious
Yeah.
réponse, c'est ça que je choisis. But si natural number est là, most likely natural number
Yeah.
will have been the better choice. So, faut nous comprendre ça. Parfois, il n'y a pas de most exact answer, but based on the availability of what you have,
Yeah.
then therefore this becomes the perfect choice. C'est ça que je veux dire, guys. Même dès que nous pouvons répondre à une question, mais réponse c'est qui réponse qui fait plus sens dans toute réponse que nous avons. Nous pouvons éliminer ça, c'est ça, therefore c'est ça. Et au nombre qui parle, c'est ça. So, définitivement, M. Postel dit que question, ça sont questions que vous donnez dans l'examen, dans le budget là. Qui pas gagné pour nous avec 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 3 plus 3, 4 plus 4, guys. Définitivement, c'est ça qui est. Alright? So, ça sont nos questions.
One
So,
more.
one more question before we
But,
go.
right, but this is a good
No,
problem.
this is a good one.
Yeah,
I like
very
it.
good problem.
Yeah, and this one has to do with logic.
Yeah, logic. Yeah.
Logic.
I think you're right. It might have been natural numbers. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
It might
Because
have
I
been
think
natural
I think it might have been natural numbers.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Because most kids probably were like, what did he mean by
Yeah.
natural numbers? If you don't understand this, then
Yeah.
you would have gotten this wrong.
Because, as I said, if you take out
Yeah.
the zero, those are natural
Yeah.
numbers.
And I bet you when they read
And
natural,
then when you put zero,
yeah,
then it
that's
becomes
wrong.
whole number.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense to throw zero in.
yeah, there's no such thing.
Yeah,
Because
you're
if
right.
you throw something,
Yeah.
souvent on va regarder dans le mouvement, on va regarder c'est pas zero
Yeah.
là. So therefore, but as I said, my dear guys, si on met ça là, it is the obvious answer.
Yeah. Compared to the
But
others.
otherwise, the real answer would have been natural number. Okay?
I think this might have been what the choice was, and that's another reason why. You know why? Because most people pick rational,
Rational.
because they probably didn't think this was a real thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
They didn't realize
Yeah.
what did it mean by natural. I've never heard of that
Natural,
before. Imagine if you've never heard of this before, you go
Yeah.
like, well, rational makes sense,
Rational makes sense, yeah, that's true.
but if you don't know that rational means,
Fraction.
then you would never know
Yeah.
to make this.
But we go for one number because it's the most obvious
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But I think the real answer will have been
I agree.
natural number.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. One more.
Now, one more question to go.
Alright, this is another region. So now this one is like, which results in irrational number. Right? And so we have square root of 3 times square root of 3, negative 2 over 3 plus 1 over 4, 5 times square root of 81, 1 over 3 plus square root of 3. And the reason why I wanted to do this the last one is because this one has, right, it has things maybe we don't know. Right? Right? You have 4 choices. Only one of them is correct. And it's asking, right? Which one is irrational? Not rational, irrational. And so, some people might automatically look at this and think, oh, this has to be it. Because we know we can't do the square root of 3. So this must be the answer.
But it's multiplied.
But you're multiplying it. And what's 3 times 3?
9.
Can't we do the square root of 9?
Yes.
And we know 3 is the same thing as 3 over 1. And so this is?
It's rational.
This became a rational number. So we know it's not that.
Yeah. For the simple fact that no multiply it. Okay, good.
And this one we already know, is it going to be irrational? Well, this one is a fraction. This is a fraction. If I add 2 fractions, it's going to be another fraction.
Doesn't matter if it is negative or positive.
Yeah, it's going to be a fraction. And we already know if it's a fraction, then it's rational. That's the meaning of rational, fraction. So at least we got these 2 choices. How do we do this? Well, here we were able to multiply these because they both have square roots. These don't have the square roots. They both don't. This side's though. But we can change this to what?
It's
9. 9.
Times 5.
Times, right?
That's 45.
And 45 is?
Over 1, it's rational.
Right? Rational.
Then the obvious answer is this one.
And the obvious answer is this one.
Because of this.
Right? Even if you try to change it to a fraction, 1 over 3 plus square root of 3 over 1, whatever, you can't do this.
You can't do this.
You can't do the square root of 3.
So irrational.
So that's why I wanted to go over this one, because I know lots of people might have...
Yeah, they would have gone for this.
Right? Wouldn't they have?
Yes, yes. Ça, c'est une dernière question que nous choisissons pour nous faire avant que nous close session ça. Là, which result, quand on dit que résultat un irrational numbers que de 4 questions ça yo qui irrational. So obviously speaking, depuis où nous voit ça square root of 3, if it is by itself, c'est ça qui est by itself définitivement ça irrational. Mais le fait qu'on multiplie et par l'autre encore, then 3 times 3 is 9, and then ça va square root of 9, then square root of 9 will become 3, et que 3 multiplié par 3 va 9, and then 3 over 1 ça va irrational. So therefore, ça nous connaît qu'il
Right?
irrational.
It's not asking for rational,
Yeah.
right? It's asking...
Irrational. So not chercher
You
qui
gotta
ça
pay attention to that,
irrational.
yeah.
I say that's the word. The vocabulary word say irrational. The opposite of rational.
Yes.
Deuxième dans ce même genre. Bon, là, on va même les penser. Et pour une fraction là, ou déjà connaissez sous rationnel nous campé. Et pourtant des fractions c'est rationnel. Ratio,
Yeah.
fraction. Parce que quel négatif, quel positif, nous pas besoin de connaître. Parce que pas rien là qui différent qui fait nous connaître que par les rationnel parce que c'est ratio, fraction.
Yeah.
So on pas même besoin de sauver lui-même et son fraction pour apprendre d'autres. Ça, maintenant, depuis qu'on est multiplication de beau, square root of 81, c'est 9 que ça baille, et pour multiplier par 5, 5 fois 9, 45, et pour qu'on ait 45 over 1 sont rationnels liés, then vous connaissez que ça pas irrationnel. Et même quand il pas capable de mettre over 1, il pas jamais irrationnel, non, mais là, tout le monde ça quand même. Then, the obvious answer, c'est number 4 là, parce que ça,
That's rational.
irrational, but le fait qu'on va additionner 3 là dans les, ça vient rendre irrational.
Yeah.
Parce que there's no way qu'on est capable de convertir 3, you have to make it 3 over 1, there's no way.
And like
So
what we
c'est
said
ça.
before, what we said in the previous problem, irrational
Mhm.
plus irrational is always going to be...
Irrational.
Yeah. Always
Always.
irrational.
Yes.
So as soon as you know that this is rational and this is irrational and you're adding,
And
right?
that's why.
That's why to your right. I know you're about to say. That's why some people would think, oh, irrational, irrational. But it's not always the case that when you times it,
Yes.
that it's gonna be.
And then to close, guys, that is why cardinal will number la nous mettons dehors. Because any number you add with this one here, this one is so powerful, it's going to end up make them become irrational.
Yeah.
That is why they put it outside of the because it is
point.
very potent, very powerful. Because if you add this one, any contagious thing, this one's going to overpower them with the irrational. Because there's no way. There's no pas capable négocier, pas négocier là du tout. Guys, I am so excited. It is our first real class actually trying to teach here. And then remember guys, c'est la première fois que nous avons essayé de faire comme ça, ouais que m'a essayé d'enseigner en créole et que Mr. Prosper a enseigné en anglais. And then the thing is that m'enseigner mathématiques for the longest. Moi pas dire nous que moi bon en mathématiques, moi enseigner de 6e à 8e grade. C'est middle school que m'enseigner. So, ma instant la math c'est 6e à 8e grade. But Mr. tellement love pour mathématiques à cause de Mr. Prosper, c'est peut-être raison ça que nous avons venture into pre-algebra, algebra 1 jusqu'à calculus. So, ça arrive tout dans une sorte de personal reward for me because by doing this, it keep me on my toes because it's so retiring, but it keep my brain going on. So, I'm not avec aucun ulterior motive than just pour aider our kids, our Asian kids, even our American kids too. Because guess what? Mr. Prosper enseigne très bien en anglais, so n'importe qui qui regarde par Mr. Prosper, là déjà comprendre là. Mais même moi, je viens pour translate tout petit, mais nous voulons pour nous prendre ça que Mr. Prosper a donné. Comprends? C'est ça que nous. Mr. Prosper, I am so proud of you, man.
Oh, thank you.
Because of you, you kept returning back l'école. It's like I am still in school here. Well, I am a teacher, but I'm learning myself here. There are certain things I'm learning. Okay? So, Mr. Prosper, we have the floor now before we close.
I want to thank all the people watching, and hopefully I did a pretty good or decent job at trying to explain numbers, right? Just what numbers are, why we call them the things that we call them, why they look the way they look, right? And why the names are what they are. Because again, for the students who are trying to graduate at high school here in New York City, you need to be able to understand this. And I really hope that we did a good job of showing them that it's not that complicated, right? It's all logical. And the first video, when Mr. Paulo gets up there, we'll let you know that's the approach you're trying to make. We're not trying to make it seem as though, or show you guys that we're the smartest men here.
No, definitely.
We're just trying to show you a way to just simply understand concepts that are all around you, patterns, see that everything logically makes sense, okay? And if you think about it long enough, you too will see, oh, I understand it. And that's the dream.
That's the dream.
That's the
and
dream.
Definitely, guys, que Jean going to know là. See, you get questions, guys. And then if you have a problem that you have difficulty solving, please email us. I'm going to avoid Banu because I'm going to put our email address on c'est creolenetflix@gmail.com. Send the questions to us, and then let nous venir là pour nous faire exposer nous. Then before que nous close, que nous doit solve question pour nous or pour même pas ça pour nous voir.
Yeah, the same way we just did 3 problems. The same way we broke it down.
Yes.
We would easily do that.
For any questions
Yeah,
that you guys will send it there. All right, no problem. And then if it is urgent, we can even give you a phone call or send you it prior to even do it here. If it is necessary, we can come with it. Comme moi, je nous m'enseigne from 6 à 8 grade. Mr. Prosper is truly high school. And they get a master degree in education, but with a concentration in math.
Yes.
And then Mr. Prosper enseigne jusqu'à collège. Enseigne les filles en collège, là, venez dans la mathématique, calculus, advanced. Comprends? So, comme moi, dit statistique. So, n'espérez que we hope that this thing that we are doing can take us very far. We are not going to stay only with pre-algebra. We're going to do algebra 1, algebra 2, and then geometry, you know, and then hopefully, if we have time, if everything's okay, and then pre-calculus and calculus, and then hopefully go into finance, economics,
finance, you saw that we easily, even talking about numbers, we easily just started talking about money.
Yes.
Because we understand life right now, money is very important. So we also, a big part of understanding numbers and math is it's your livelihood, money.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah.
That's true. Okay, guys, so having said all this, moi très content le fait que élèves haïtiens yo a regardé ça. Et que si que nous pas de temps ouais live là parce que nous font live et me recorder le tout, then moi voyer ça que me recorder à bas de même là le channel là, la TikTok channel moi m'a mettre plusieurs petits clips là ça yo. And then guys, just share avec l'autre monde qui parle, nous des petits monde qui l'école là ça yo. Même là que math is not your forte, it's not your favorite subject, but at least it's not going to hurt guys to just get the video.
Yeah.
And then if you are watching our videos and then you see the problems that we put, before you play the entire video, pause the video and try to solve the problem yourself.
Yeah.
And then see what you came up with before
we explained it.
we explain it.
Yeah.
And then that, and then you have a chance to get it. C'est comme ça qu'on peut happen, okay guys? Merci un peu. M'apprécie ça un peu, guys. Le ballon avec tout le monde moi là pour nous. Bonne chance parce que Creole là pour une petite chance pour nous capable de get parce que un gars qui préparé. But please guys, bear with me parce que c'est la première fois que je enseigner mathématiques en Creole. C'est un anglais que je dis que je enseigner. Mr. Prospect, I appreciate
No, I appreciate you.
all the effort you did for our kids. Okay, so don't forget to tell your kids.
Yeah, no. To look at
To
the
make sure that they look at the
Yeah.
videos, man.
Yeah.
All right. Good job.
No, good
Okay,
job
guys.
to you too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Love
Thank
you. And see you Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
Yes.
I think that went very well. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Prosper, you good?